welcome back. I'm Amy Cooper, my mom Tommy Cooper, and we are here again with Ben Burton from Beit Haderek right here in Odessa, Texas.
And we are really enjoying a visit with him.
He is. That first hour was pretty incredible.
It was.
And this hour, what are you going to be sharing with us?
Okay, we're going to do a really complex teaching on the virgin birth.
So we're going to have to pay attention.
You have to pay attention. If you fall asleep, you will... Please don't fall asleep.
If they fall asleep, they have to buy the DVD.
You have to buy the DVD,
Yay.
because this is very much like science. This is Torah science. Okay, so we're going to learn something here, and it builds upon step. So you really have to follow me very carefully to really understand this, because we talked about in the first segment about interpreting the Bible like a first century Jew. We can't approach the text of the New Testament as 21st century Americans, because we talked about the Hebraisms, the language, the culture. There are certain items that we don't really understand or grasp because they're not a part of our culture. They're not a part of how we were raised. So what we're going to show is how to interpret the Tanakh and the Bible and the New Testament as a first century Jew would. Now, I was asked by a rabbi, actually, he says, Ben, are you sure we can actually interpret the Bible as a first century Jew? Because we talk about that, but how do we know we can really do this? How do we project ourselves backward this way? He makes a very good argument, but there's one thing, is that the Jewish people have left us a lot of writings. They have left us a compendium, volumes upon volumes of how they interpret the Bible. And it's quite fascinating. I actually began reading rabbinic writings when I was debating. I used to debate a lot, proving Yeshua is the Messiah. And as I began to read these rabbinical writings, I was stunned at the linguistic similarities with the New Testament. Now, again, we often need to emphasize that only Genesis to Revelation is scripturally authoritative for us. But it's important for us to go back into the language, go back into the culture, go back into the land in which produced the New Testament. The New Testament wasn't produced in a vacuum. So if we do this, we will come so much closer to the linguistic parallels, how the gospel authors, how Paul interprets the Bible. Peter says Paul is very difficult to understand. Why? Paul was a student of Gamaliel. Gamaliel was this huge figure in rabbinic literature. And so we must understand how they interpret the Bible. And the New Testament uses these principles of interpretation we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about the principles of interpretation used by the ancient Hebrew people, by the ancient Jews, okay?
Cool.
So we're going to begin looking at the New Testament. We're going to look at the virgin birth, okay? I have found about 5 to 6 different references in Jewish literature that says before the coming of the Messiah, there will be a star in the east. Okay? There's even one text that it says the astrologers of the nations will understand the character of the star before Israel does. Okay?
Oh, really?
Sounds a lot like Matthew 2, Matthew chapter 2. But first we're going to begin with Isaiah chapter 7, verse 14. It says, Lachen yiten Adonai hu lachem ot hinei almah hara yoledet Ben Karat Shemo Immanuel. In English, this says, therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin will conceive and bear a son, and you shall call his name Immanuel. This phrase, Immanuel, Im in Hebrew means with. Immanu means with us. Immanuel means God with us. So we're going to look into this passage. This is a very controversial passage between Jews and Christians. In the dialogue between Jews and Christians, the Hebrew of this passage becomes a very critical point in the debate and the argument. And we're going to look into this. And we're going to look to see how the Jews interpret the Bible. And we can show you that the New Testament uses this exact methodology. Okay, so we're going to look into this. We're going to begin in an unusual place. We're going to begin in the beginning, in Bereshit, to study who this person is in Isaiah 7:14. In the book of Genesis, it says, Jacob was left alone and wrestled with a man there until the breaking of dawn, or the breaking of the day. When he saw that he didn't prevail against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was strained as he wrestled. The man said, "Let me go, for the day breaks." Jacob said, "I won't let you go unless you bless me." Jacob said to him, the angel said to Jacob, "What is your name?" He said, "Yaakov," Jacob, the supplanter, the deceiver. He said, your name will no longer be called Yaakov, but Israel, for you have fought with God and with men and have prevailed. Yaakov asked him, "Please tell me your name." And the angel replies, "Why do you ask about my name?" And he blessed him there. Yaakov called the name of the place Peniel, for he said, "I have seen God face to face, panim al panim, and my life is preserved." This particular word in Hebrew is, or this phrase, "Why do you ask about my name?" Lama ze tishal lishmi. Why does he say this? Lama ze tishal lishmi. Why do you ask about my name? There is something this angel is hiding. Why is he not revealing his name? His name is not, it's not time for him to reveal his name yet. He is concealing it for a purpose. This is really amazing. Who is this person that Jacob is wrestling with? According to the Targum, he is wrestling with the angel of the Lord. He's wrestling with the angel of the Lord, this very special angel. The word malach in Hebrew, we think of angel as like a class of beings, where the word malach in Hebrew just means messenger. It's a very special angel. This is not a created being, okay? This is the Lord himself in a way that humans, it's tangible. How can infinite light interact with finite matter? It's through the ladder of Jacob. It's when God contracts his divine light and interacts with us. So let's continue. We are going to look at the 7 principles of Hillel to answer this question. Lama ze tishal lishmi? Why do you ask about my name? Now, we mentioned Hillel earlier. Hillel was a sage in the 1st century, and he actually codified the principles of interpretation. That was interesting. Have you ever heard the statement by someone who says, you can just interpret anything you want into the Bible? Mm-hmm. Well, if there's no rules, then you can play the game however you wish. Mm-hmm. But if there's actual principles, which we call today in theology hermeneutics, if there's actual standards of interpretation, then maybe we wouldn't have such a wide array of different interpretations. Maybe that would bring unity in the body, in a sense, if we all got past our culture and began to read the Bible like an ancient Jew.
Might eliminate some of those 10,000 doctrines.
May eliminate 10,000 doctrines, that's right. And so let's look at this. There are these 7 principles. The first principle is called kal v'chomer, light and heavy. Yeshua uses this argument in the Gospels explicitly. Paul uses this argument. We're going to go through each one of these just to give us an overview. But there's one of these I really want to focus on tonight. Hopefully, maybe one of these days we can do a deeper teaching on each one of these. But we're just going to focus on one today so that we begin to understand the Bible like an ancient Jew. Our second principle is called gezerah shava, equivalent expressions. Okay? Now, the New Testament uses these principles of interpretation. Our third is called binyan ab mikatuv echad, building a family from a single text. The fourth, binyan ab mishanet ketuvim, building a family from 2 or more texts. We have kalal uprat, uprat ukal, kalal, which is general and particular, the general and specific. If this is all just flying over your head, just bear with me. We have another principle, which is an analogy made from another passage. We have the 7th principle, which is an explanation obtained from context. Today we're going to focus on gezerah shava. Okay, when we learn how to interpret this, gezerah shava, we will begin to see things in the New Testament that begin to unlock. And we're going to explain what is gezerah shava. All this Hebrew word, it's like it can fly over your head really quick, so we want to be very slow. But at the same time, we really want you to stick with us in this moment as this is kind of complex. We're going to build upon step. So what is gezerah shava? Equivalent expressions. Have you ever read a passage in the Bible that used a certain phrase and you see it in another place? When you see that, these 2 scriptures are linked. Okay? So if the Torah is a big tapestry, Sometimes we see threads woven throughout the tapestry, and sometimes they're hidden, but the same color thread will emerge on two different ends of the tapestry. These are connected threads. We have to look at the Torah as a tapestry.
Okay.
So here is an explanation of Yitzhak Shalom of Torah.org. It says, if a seemingly superfluous word or phrase appears in two disconnected passages, it may indicate that these passages are to inform each other and to become sources for information, filling in the gaps, as it were, for each other. So the concept is these two separate scriptures that appear totally disconnected but have similar phraseology are actually linked, and sometimes one scripture will have details that the other scripture will not. Those details in this scripture will apply to this one also, okay? It's very important to understand. In Judges 13:2, we're going to look at this. And at this moment, it seems very disconnected, but we will watch the threads be connected. It says, there was a certain man of Zoah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah, and his wife was barren and did not bear. And the angel of Adonai appeared to the woman and said to her, see now you are barren and do not bear, but you shall conceive and bear a son. This woman runs and tells Manoah, her husband. And she said, a man of God came to me, and his face was like the face of an angel of God, very awesome. And I didn't ask him where he was from, neither did he tell me his name. So Manoah begins to pray, and he asks for another revelation of the angel. He asks for the angel to return, okay? The angel returns, and Manoah says to the angel of Adonai, what is your name, that when your words happen, when we are given a son, that we may honor you? And the angel of Adonai said to him, in Hebrew, this is amazing. He says this, Lama ze tisha lishmi? He uses the exact phrase of the angel who wrestled with Jacob.
Right.
These two passages are linked based on that phrase. The angel who appeared to Manoah and his wife and proclaimed that they would have a son is the same angel who wrestled with Jacob. Okay? These two scriptures are now linked. I think we're beginning to see what is this Gezerah Shava. Okay? Now, this is really remarkable, but he adds a detail that does not exist in Genesis. Let's look at it again. Lama ze tisha lishmi vehu feli? Why do you ask about my name, since it is wonderful? The name of the angel is wonderful. Let's look at this passage a little deeper and see if there's anything else that links these two passages. That angel, or this being, this mysterious being who doesn't want to reveal his name, is called a man. The Hebrew word is ish. In Genesis 32, it says Jacob wrestled with a man. In Judges 13:6, it said a man of God came. The next section, this person is called a malach, an angel or a messenger. In Hosea 12:4, it actually describes that Jacob was wrestling with the angel. In Judges 13, it says the angel of Adonai appeared. So this person is described as a man and is described as an angel. And finally, this person is described as Elohim, as God. In Genesis 32, it says, I have seen God face to face, and yet my life was spared. And in Judges 13, it says, we have seen God, and surely we shall die. And his wife says, we will not die. God has had mercy on us. Now, this is remarkable because the Bible in the New Testament tells us that no one has seen God at any time. In Exodus, it says that Moses, Nadab, Abihu, and Aharon, they all went up with the 70 elders of Israel, and they saw the God of Israel. Do we have a contradiction? This is a Jewish interpretation where there's two passages that appear to conflict. There's a third that resolves it. Okay? These are the principles of interpretation. So we see that this person that Jacob was wrestling with is called a man, he's called an angel, and he's God. He has his foot in all realms of existence, in the divine realm, and the angelic realm, and in the human realm. All the way from heaven to earth, he is like a ladder that connects the infinite to the finite. So let's look at this passage. Why do you ask about my name? For it is wonderful. Lama ze tisha lishmi vehu feli? In Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6, it tells us something really amazing. It says, Ki yeled yolad lanu, for unto us a child is born. Ben nitan lanu, and unto us a son is given. Skipping down to the third line, it says, Vayikra shemo Pele Yoetz Givor Aviad Sar Shalom. In English, first we're going to look at this word Pele. This is the exact same root as the word wonderful, as the same word that the angel is speaking to Manoach and his wife. The angel that is speaking to Manoach and his wife, the one who was wrestling with Jacob, is the one being spoken of in Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. Okay? So we are connecting the verses. Gezerah Shava, similar expressions are all showing us the threads of the Torah. Okay? In English, this particular passage says, For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be upon his shoulders. His name will be called Pele, Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Sar Shalom, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and of peace there shall be no end. Think of this. Unto us a son is given. This is the phrase, For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Right. He that believes on him is not condemned, but he that believeth not is condemned already, because he has not believed in the only begotten Son of God. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. Let's continue looking at this. The rabbis interpret this passage in Isaiah 9:6 as speaking of the Messiah. This is not something particular to Christians. Rabbi Yossi the Galilean said, The name of the Messiah is Shalom, for it is said, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Rabbi Yossi the Galilean said, Great is peace, for in the hour that the King Messiah is revealed to Israel, he will begin with Shalom, he will begin with peace, for it is said, Manovu al heharim ragle mevaser. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of him, the feet of the messenger who brings good news. Mashmiya Shalom, who announces Shalom, peace. That phrase for good tidings in Hebrew, who brings good tidings, mevaser, is the exact word besoah, the gospel. The person in Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6, is the person who is bringing the gospel, is the person who proclaimed to Manoach and his wife that they would have a child, and is the person that Israel is wrestling with. Okay?
Wow.
The rabbis say this is the Messiah. Okay? Now let's go back to our Hebrew here. This is something really remarkable, and this is where we have to pay attention. Okay? This is the Hebrew of Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. In almost the last line there, we have this phrase, lemarbe. That means, and the increase of his government. And there will be peace without end. Ein ketz, without end. Ule shalom, ein ketz, without ends. But this word lemarbe is very interesting. There is something here that is violating the Hebrew language. And either the scribes who are writing the Torah don't know what they're doing, or there's something deep going on here. And let's look. Here is this word up close, lemarbe. Okay? This means of the increase. This particular letter here is a closed mem. It's called a mem sophit. Okay? Let me just give you an example here. Here's the first mem. Here's an open mem. This occurs at the beginning or the middle of a word. And here is the mem sophit. This occurs only at the end of the word. You see the problem here in Isaiah 9? There's a problem because that closed mem is happening in the middle of the word. Either the scribes don't know what they're doing, or there's something deeper going on here. This is not the only time in the Torah that this happens. All throughout the Torah, you'll find letters that are big, letters that are little, letters that are broken in half, letters that are enlarged to show you something. We talked about the word notzer earlier. It's hidden in the Hebrew, something we don't see in the English. But what does this mean? Well, we have to understand the shape of the letters. We have to look at this in a deeper level. So let's just look at two words. Here is the word mayim in Hebrew. This means water. Notice that in the first of the, now Hebrew's read from right to left, okay? So in the first of this, you see an open mem, okay? At the end of the letter, you see a closed mem. It looks like a big O or a circle. The first and the last letters are actually the same letters, but they take a different form. Okay? Here is the name Miriam, or Mary in Hebrew. Notice how it starts with an open mem, and it ends with a closed mem. Remember, Hebrew's read from right to left. And so, what on earth is this closed mem doing in the middle of a word in Isaiah 9? Okay? First, we have to look at what this word links to. Here is a Jewish commentary. It says this: our sages have taught that the closed letter mem, which normally appears only at the end of a word, but here appears in the middle of the word lemarbe, to the increase, is an allusion to Mashiach, is an allusion to the Messiah. It's a hint to the Messiah. This is very deep. There's something deeper going on here. Here is a picture of a profile of a woman, if you can see it. And you see her big belly. Okay. The letter M, or the letter mem, is shaped like a womb. Okay, this is not something I'm making up. This is something that the rabbis even say. Okay, this letter is shaped like a womb. One Jewish commentary says the mem is shaped like a belly from above. The closed mem cannot give birth. And just like the female, the open mem has an opening for which to give birth. So you see in the mem, you see the birth canal. Okay, at the very bottom there. The bottom left is the birth canal. There's an opening. It goes on to say the numerical value of the letter mem is 40, alluding to the 40 weeks in which the embryo is formed in the womb. So almost we can put a baby inside this letter. And the opening in the bottom is the birth canal. Okay? The letter mem, also the word picture, the ancient pictograph word picture was water. Was water. Okay, so we're going to look at this just a little bit deeper. Here's a messianic commentary. It says, in Hebrew mystical thought, the letter mem is not only connected to water, but with the word em, or mother. Ima means mama in Hebrew, as well as the woman's belly or womb from which flows forth water at the time of birth. A closed mem represents a closed womb, or to a woman who is barren and incapable of giving birth. Likewise, a virgin has a closed womb because she gives birth to her first child. So let me explain this. Hidden in the Hebrew, this closed mem that represents a closed womb. Remember that the angel went to the woman and said, you are barren. She had a closed womb, but you will give birth to a son. You see that throughout the Torah, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Hannah, we also have our Hannah, we also have the wife of Manoah. We have this pattern of the miraculous birth. And they're all born, the prophet Samuel, Samson, Yitzhak, Isaac, and Jacob are all born from a closed mem, a closed womb. The person born of the prophecy in Isaiah chapter 9:6 will be born of a closed womb. Not because she is barren, but because she's a virgin. Okay? There is a hint in this letter. And we're going to look at this a little bit deeper. Back to Isaiah 7:14. Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin will conceive and will bear a son, and you shall call his name Immanuel, God with us. Now here is the Hebrew word for virgin in this particular passage. It's the word almah. All right? It can mean young maiden or the virgin. Now, in Hebrew, another way to say virgin is betulah. Now, betulah is a more definitive way to say virgin. And based on these two words, there's a big debate between Christians and Jews as to the meaning of this passage. But I would just argue, if it was just a young maiden giving birth, then what kind of sign would that be? Moreover, the prophetic pattern which the Torah lays out for the miraculous birth is culminated in the birth of the Messiah. We even see it in the birth of John the Baptist. His parents were barren. This is a pattern that it links throughout the Torah for a very specific purpose.
Wow.
Okay? So this is going to get a little deep. Why does Isaiah use the term almah? Why doesn't he use the word betulah? I mean, there could be so many arguments if he just used the word betulah. He could have gone that direction. This is a Torah principle that you must understand. In Deuteronomy chapter 12, it says this: "Whatever thing I command you, That you shall observe to do, and you shall not add thereunto, nor shall you diminish from it. Now this teaches us something. Outside of the Torah, nothing can be added. Everything that is in the New Testament must already be found in the Torah,
Right.
hidden already.
Right.
Everything that's in the prophets, everything that's in the writings must already be found hidden in the Torah. And so the reason why Isaiah uses the word almah, the answer is, why does he use it? The answer is, we must look to the Torah for the answer. The answer is in the Torah. There is a specific reason why he used the word almah.
Wow.
So let's go to Genesis 24. Let's look for this word almah. In Genesis 24 it says that Eliezer was coming to look for a wife for Isaac. And he says, I came to this spring, and I said, Adonai, the God of my master Avraham, if now you do prosper my way, which I shall go, behold, I am standing by the spring of water. Let it happen that when the maiden who comes out to draw, the word is almah, comes out to draw, to whom I will say, please give me a little water from your pitcher to drink, and she will tell me, drink, and I will also draw water for your camels. Let her be the woman for whom Adonai has appointed for my master's son. Okay? Now it's interesting because in this passage it doesn't specify who is being spoken of here. It doesn't come out and say this is Rivkah. It doesn't say that. And there's a very specific reason in the Torah that it does this. We must remember that in Matthew chapter 5, verse 17, Yeshua says, I come not to abolish the Torah or the prophets. I come not to abolish, but to fulfill. I tell you the truth, not one yod or kotz, not one jot or tittle will ever pass from the Torah until all is accomplished, until heaven and earth pass away. So if you look at this, every detail of the Torah is designed for a very specific purpose. And just stay with me here because you're about to see this unlock, okay? So looking at the next passage in Genesis 24, speaking of the same woman, it says, the young lady was very beautiful to look at, and she was a virgin. She was a betulah, neither had any man known her. She went down to the spring, filled her pitcher, and came up. Now, this is important because the woman, the almah, is a betulah, whom no man has ever known, okay? Matthew uses the word almah, applying it to Miriam, to Mary. And Mary comes out when the angel Gabriel brings the annunciation, you shall give birth to a son and you shall name him Yeshua. She says, how is this possible, for no man has ever touched me? The Torah source is right there. So the Torah defines the almah as a betulah. Not just any betulah, though, as a virgin, but one who is bringing forth the water and who is appointed for the master's son. Okay, we have to take these phrases very important.
Okay.
Okay? So there's another place in the Torah that speaks about the almah, and we'll go there. Okay? Again, Exodus 2, verse 8. We're using Gezerah Shava, this principle of equivalent expressions, to tie these seemingly disconnected passages together. Okay? So Exodus 2, verse 8. Vatelech ha'alma v'tikra et im hayeled. Accidentally in my Hebrew there I left off a dalet. But in any case, in Exodus 2 it says, the maiden went and called the child's mother. Exodus chapter 2 shows Moshe in the ark. It actually uses the exact same word as the ark of Noah, Teva, and it's actually covered with pitch, exactly the same way. And in the waters, okay, the Redeemer, okay, of the Hebrews here, and the daughter of Pharaoh brings him out, okay, and the maiden comes and says, do you want me to find a Hebrew nurse for you? And she says, go. And the maiden went and called the child's mother. Now, who is the maiden here in Exodus chapter 2? The Torah is being very vague on purpose. It doesn't come out and tell us her name. Because on a literal level, it does refer to the sister of Moses, but it doesn't tell us this because it is telling us something deeper. Okay, this is the way the Jews understand the Torah. So let's look and see what it says. This is from Israel Betzalel from the Jerusalem Council. This is a messianic commentary. He says the Torah is not being specific as to who this almah is because it wants to teach us something more than just the initial story that it is portraying. It is again the same conditions and presentation we find in Genesis 24:43 that prompts us to inquire of the Torah who the almah is in Exodus chapter 2, verse 10. Now let me explain something here. Because if we've come from a very Greek mind, you're thinking I'm just connecting things out of thin air. There is a Hebrew concept called Shevim Panim LeTorah. There are 70 faces to the Torah. Okay? So imagine if I had a diamond, explaining this phrase. It's a very strange phrase. Imagine if I had a diamond and I was turning it and you saw a red flash of fire, but I saw a green flash of fire. Who's right, who's wrong? It depends on our perspective and the refraction of light. The Torah is light. The Torah is like a diamond. The rabbis and the Jewish people don't interpret the Bible only on what we say in Christian hermeneutics, which is exegesis and eisegesis. Reading what's out of the text, what it means and what it says, and eisegesis, reading things into the text. They look at it in a much more sophisticated way. They look at it as if it has 4 levels. We have Peshat, Remes, Drash, and Sod, which means the literal, the hint, the sermon, or the part we're digging into the text and pulling things out, and then the Sod level, the mystical level, the level that the book of Revelation is written on. Some of Paul's writings is he writes on this level when he says, "Behold, I tell you a mystery." A lot of scholars have looked at the Greek word and said, "Mysterion." This was a very Greek mystery religion. That's not our Hebrew Paul. Okay, our Hebrew Shaul is teaching us something very deep in the Hebrew concept, something on the Sod level. So what we are looking at here is something on this deeper level. The literal application does apply, but there is something deeper here going on. So let's continue. We do not ignore the immediate context at all, since it is the context that gives us the clues that we need to find the answer. For we simply inquire of the Torah the name of the almah. What is the name of the almah? And therefore ask the Torah, what is the name of the mother of the Mashiach? And it is this. In Exodus 15, it tells us it's Miriam. Now let me explain. In Isaiah 7, it says the almah is the one who gives birth. The Torah defines almah as a virgin. The almah is the one who is bringing forth water. The almah is the one who is appointed for the master's son. And the almah, her name is Miriam, Mary. All of this only from the Tanakh. We have not even got into the New Testament yet. We know that this woman is a virgin, never has known a man. She's bringing forth the water. Her name is Miriam, and she's connected in relation. She's physically related to the Redeemer, and this is Moshe, the Redeemer. It's very important to understand that whenever we speak about Moshe in the Jewish mindset, you're also speaking about Messiah. Mm-hmm. They say, just as the first Redeemer was, so was the last Redeemer also. Just as Moses came riding on a donkey, so will Messiah come riding on a donkey. Just as Moses revealed himself and hid himself from his brothers, so Messiah will reveal himself and hide himself from his brothers. I kid you not, the Jewish people say that. This is what we read in the gospel. Yeshua reveals himself, he hides himself, and will reveal himself again, exactly according to the pattern of Moshe. The rabbis also say, just as Moses brought forth manna in the desert, so Messiah will bring forth food in a miraculous way. How did they know that without studying the New Testament? And the answer is this. It's already in the Torah. Mm-hmm. Every detail is already in the Torah, even down to the wire of the name of the mother of the Messiah. Her name is Miriam. She is the one who was appointed for the master's son. She is the one who's bringing forth the living water. And she is the one spoken of in Isaiah 7:14. And the Torah defined all of this for us thousands of years in advance before it actually happened. In Isaiah chapter 9, the person born of this prophecy will be born of a closed womb. The one born of the closed womb is the Messiah, according to the rabbis. And this person who is born is the angel of the Lord, and he's both God and he's man. All of this only from the Tanakh. Okay, we haven't even gotten into the New Testament yet. Every single detail in the New Testament is already embedded, already encoded and hidden in the Torah. But we still haven't answered the original question. Lama ze tishal lishmi? Why do you ask about my name? Okay? This is something very deep. In Proverbs chapter 30, it says this. Who has ascended up into heaven, and who has descended? Who has gathered the wind into his fists? Who has bound the waters in his garment? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What is his name? And what is his son's name? Tell me if you know. The exact same question. The question that has been asked over and over again in the Torah, what is your name? What is your name? And the angel concealed it. He only gave hints. This angel is no regular angel. This angel is the Son of God. This angel is the one who is wrestling with Jacob. And Jacob today, Israel today, is still wrestling with him. And there's a point to where they're going to recognize him. But the question is, what is his name? The Torah told us this thousands of years in advance. When Moses is about to pass away, he takes Hosea, the son of Nun. The text actually says this. He takes Hoshea, the son of Nun, and he changes his name. He gives him a new name. Just like the angel gave Jacob a new name. Just like God gave Abraham and Sarah a new name. He gives this person a new name. He changes his name from Hoshea to Yehoshua, to Joshua. Now Joshua, in the book of Nehemiah, the book of Nehemiah, is called Yeshua. Okay? The meaning is that Moses could not complete the redemption. Moses could not complete the redemption. He wanted nothing more than to be in the land. But he was not allowed into the land because he did not speak to the rock. He struck that rock. But he takes this person and he names him a new name as a prophecy, as the one who completes the redemption will be named Yehoshua. Now, have you heard about this story in Israel in 2005 of a rabbi named Rabbi Yitzhak Kaduri? He was like 106 years old, and he had a dream that the Messiah was revealed to him. And he told his disciples, I will write the name of the Messiah on a piece of paper. And he encoded it on this piece of paper. And they opened this letter a year after he died, and they opened it, and it said a Hebrew phrase. It was a very interesting Hebrew phrase. But it was like an acrostic. The first letter of every word, spelled Yehoshua, was the name of the Messiah. Stunned Israel, created a huge controversy. In Zechariah chapter 6, verse 12, it says, Behold the man whose name is the branch, and he will branch out and build the temple of the Lord. That phrase, behold the man whose name is the Tzmach, is universally recognized by the rabbis as a title for the Messiah. So, what is his name? And it's being spoken of this guy named Yehoshua, the son of Yehozadak. And he is the one who Zechariah chapter 3 says is a symbol of things to come. So let's just plug in the word. Behold the man whose name is the branch. What is the person's name? It's Yehoshua. So let's plug that in. Behold the man, Yehoshua is the branch. Yehoshua is also called in the book of Ezra and Nehemiah as Yeshua. So behold the man, Yeshua is the branch. The branch is a universal term for the Messiah. So encoded into Zechariah chapter 12 verse 6, or 6 verse 12 rather, it says, Behold the man, Yeshua is the Messiah. All encoded in the Hebrew so that we would not miss it. And what is it? What happens on Pesach, on Passover, when Pilate brings out Yeshua? What does he say? He says, Behold the man. Behold the man. Behold this one who is the branch. Everyone should have immediately thought of that particular verse. So not only does the Torah tell us that the virgin will be named Miriam, it tells us ahead of time that his name will be Yeshua. He will be the one to accomplish the redemption. He will be the one, according to the Torah, who causes the people to inherit the land. Now this is amazing, because this means that every detail we have in the New Testament is already hidden and embedded and encoded in the Hebrew of the Torah. Okay? Every detail. Every single detail, from the cross, the resurrection, the rolling away of the stone at the resurrection at the gravesite. Think of this. In the book of Joshua, it says Joshua, who's a picture of Yeshua, chose 12 men. There's the Torah source of when Yeshua chose 12 disciples. And it also says that that all the kings came to fight against Joshua and against Israel. The exact phrase is used in the book of Revelation chapter 19. All the nations will come up and they will fight against the rider on the horse and his army, using the exact parallel. Every detail is already embedded and encoded and hidden in the Torah. And every jot, every tittle speaks of Yeshua the Messiah. And really, this is the question. What is his name? His name is Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, Emmanuel. In fulfillment of Matthew chapter 1, verse 21, you shall call his name Yeshua, for he shall Yoshi'ah, he shall save his people from their sins. And this is a very deep question. He is the Sar Shalom. He is the Prince of Peace. We've been looking at Hebrew letters, the Hebrew shapes, and all of these things, how every detail speaks of Yeshua. There's one other place that there's a letter that's out of place. In the book of Nehemiah, there is a mem, the same letter at the end that's open, at the end of a word. And the word is this: the walls were broken down. And the word is left open according to the sages because the walls had a breach in them. The walls had been broken down, and Ezra and Nehemiah and all these guys are trying to rebuild the walls. But this tells us something deep. Because the Messiah, the one who is alluded to by that closed mem in Isaiah 9, is the one who will rebuild and restore Jerusalem. The one who opens the closed mem is the one who closes the open mem. He is the one that rebuilds the walls of Jerusalem. And in the Hebrew, because it's the same letter, Gezer Shava, these things start connecting. And every passage, every thread in the Torah is so connected, we only see one color of the spectrum. You know, we see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. But in Hebrew, we see infrared to ultraviolet. We see this entire spectrum of colors. Just like we said, Shavim Panim La Torah, the Torah has 70 faces, like a diamond. And there are different facets, different spectrums of light that show, and every one of these speak of Yeshua. Every detail speaks of our King Messiah, who was born, who had to be born of a virgin. He had to be born of a virgin because if he was not born of a virgin, we have no Messiah. Because he would have inherited the sin of Adam. And we would have no substitute. We would have no sacrifice. We would have no kapara, no atonement for us. It is very important that we uphold the New Testament. I've seen in some groups how the New Testament is very denigrated. The New Testament is the most textually attested book of all time, including the Tanakh. It is so reliable, so incredibly reliable, and is important for us to believe that our God maintained this word, Genesis to Revelation, preserved it for us in order to bring us this, the Besorah, the gospel, to bring us the Torah. And the Jewish people have preserved these things. God has used the Jewish people to preserve these things. And we have nothing but love and joy and happiness that we can join with them.
Amen.
As all the world is coming against them, they are approaching the day when they will look to the skies and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven. Amen. As we said earlier, they will cry out, Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, and he will be coming on the clouds of heaven because they will be worthy. They will accept the gospel. And Romans says, how great will this be? Will be the resurrection from the dead. Mm-hmm. And their understanding of the Torah, of the Bible, and when they read the New Testament, they see it on such a deeper, sophisticated level. They see things that we have never seen in our culture. Things because they know the language, they know the culture, they know the land. And this is really a call for us as Christians, as believers, is we need to grasp onto our Hebrew roots. We need to take a hold of the tzitzit of our brothers. And even though they don't know his name is Yeshua, they know so much about him. It is stunning. I've learned so much about my Hebrew Messiah, my Jewish Messiah, my Jewish boss, my Jewish carpenter boss from his people because they know him. They are part of the very fabric of Israel. And that's something that God has allowed us to if we're non-Jewish. God has called us also to be part of that fabric.
Yes.
Ephesians chapter 2. We were once far off. We were once strangers, but now we have been brought near through our own works, through our bloodlines, through our theologies. No, through the blood of the Messiah, through his work on the cross, so that he could bring us in to be part of his covenants, the covenants of providence, the covenants of blessing, the covenants of eternal life. And this is one question I'd like to really ask the audience. We say in Hebrew, Mashlam, I would say to you, Mashlamech, or to a male, I would say, Mashlamcha. And it's like saying, how are you? How are you? But this phrase, Mashlamcha, in Hebrew, is something very deep. Mashlamcha literally means, how is your peace? How is your peace? And this is something I would like to ask everybody. How is your peace? How is your peace with the Lord? How is your relationship with him? You see that he has encoded himself, he's embedded himself, he's tried to reveal himself in every single way. And you are watching this program not by accident, but from the very design of the Holy One, from the very beginning, he knew that you would be watching this program for a very specific purpose. For a purpose that you would know him. For a purpose that you would draw near to him and have his peace. As we talked about from the very beginning, he says, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, but my peace I give to you. My question is this. Do you know that peace? Do you know the Sar Shalom? Do you know the Prince of Peace? The one who is coming to bring peace to Israel, peace to the world, the Torah to the nations, but also who is coming to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. He's coming to rebuild the walls of our hearts that have been broken down by sin, that have been torn apart, that have been shattered. And as we rebuild the temple, as we rebuild the temples that God has given us, the New Testament says that we are the temple of the living God. And we fulfill the commandment in Exodus 25. They shall make for me a mikdash, that I may dwell among them. In Hebrew, it says, V'shechanti betochem. It doesn't say that I will dwell in the tabernacle. It says I will dwell in them. Mm-hmm. That is the key. That is the key. And this is the question. God dwells where there's peace. Where God is, there is peace. My question to the audience is, do you have peace? Do you have that relationship with them? Do you know his name? His name, Jesus Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach, the one who reveals himself and answers the question, Lama ze tishal lishmi? Why do you ask about my name? It is now time to reveal it. And the last days, when Israel looked, or a picture of the last days when the brothers of Joseph were exiled twice from Joseph. And on the third time, he revealed that his name was not Zaphanat Paneach. He reveals that his name is Yosef. He begins to speak to them in Hebrew, and he says, Ani Yosef. And they see him. They see his name, and they see that he is one of their brothers. We are in the last days. We are seeing the very revelation of the King Messiah to his people. And he is calling each and every one of us to come. And really, all of us are asking that question, whether we know it or not, what is your name? And it's much more, and this is so important to understand in the Hebrew mindset, and I wish many people in the Hebrew roots movement would understand this. It's not about pronunciation. It's much deeper than that. It goes to character. It goes to authority. It goes to who that person is. Whether we call him Jesus or Yeshua, it's who that person is. And what is his name? Who does he reveal himself to be for us? It's Yeshua, salvation. God has become my salvation. He is the cornerstone of the temple. He is the beginning, and he is the end. He is the one that rebuilds the walls of Jerusalem. He's the one that closes that open mem, and he's the one that opens the closed mem. He is the one to whom the almah brings forth the living water. The one named Miriam gives birth to him. And his name is Yeshua. From the very beginning, he is the one who will complete the redemption. He is the one who not only rebuilds Jerusalem, who will bring peace to Jerusalem. He is the one that rebuilds the walls of our hearts and desires very much for us to know him in a deeper level, not through religion, but through relationship, to know him. That phrase, Yodea, Da'at, to have that knowledge, that intimate relationship knowledge with him. That is the most important. to know him, and that he is our salvation.
Amen.
And he saves us from our sins. He transforms us from being really what Adam was after the sin into what he is, that we may be like him, that we may be where he is.
Amen.
And all of this, every letter, every detail, every action, every event is already encoded in the first 5 books of the Bible. As it is written, behold, I come in the scroll of the book that is written of me. And Yeshua is the living Torah. So that's